Welcome to the Sombra Files, where the shadows speak, and the forgotten are never truly silent. Tonight, we descend into a grave with no peace, and a voice that may have been heard too late. They say nothing rests quieter than a grave. But in 1891, in the hills of Pikeville, Kentucky, one grave was not quiet. This is the true story of Octavia Hatcher, a young woman whose name still echoes in Appalachian legends. Her tale is not just tragic, it's terrifying, because what happened to her could only be described as every human's worst nightmare. To understand Octavia's fate, we need to go back over a century. She was born in 1870 into a well-known family in Pikeville. A soft-spoken beauty with deep brown eyes, Octavia had everything a young woman of her time could hope for. In 1891, she married James Hatcher, a successful businessman, and shortly after, they welcomed a baby boy into the world. But happiness, as it often does in old ghost stories, came with a price. Their newborn Jacob lived for only a few days before passing from what doctors called infant paralysis. The grief nearly broke Octavia. Her vibrant personality faded overnight. She stopped eating, stopped speaking, and eventually, she stopped waking up. Doctors were baffled. She had fallen into a deep, unresponsive sleep, a mysterious illness that mimicked death itself. With no movement, no speech, and shallow breathing, the decision was made. Octavia was declared dead. At the time, embalming was rare in small towns like Pikeville. The summer heat was rising, and illness was feared, so her burial was rushed. Too rushed. Within 24 hours, her coffin was sealed and lowered into the earth. A mourning veil of silence fell over the Hatcher household, but James couldn't find peace. Not with the way she'd slipped away, not with how quickly they put her in the ground. And then, things took a turn. A strange illness began spreading through the region. Dozens of people, some from neighboring towns, began falling into comas that mimicked death, and just as mysteriously, they began to wake up. When James Hatcher heard this, the blood in his veins turned cold. He rushed to the doctor, describing Octavia's symptoms, the timeline, the rapid burial, the similarities. He demanded they open her grave. Against protests from the townsfolk and Octavia's family, he insisted. What they uncovered became one of the most horrifying discoveries Pikeville had ever seen. The coffin lining was torn. Deep claw marks scratched into the inside. Octavia's fingernails were broken and bloodied. Her face frozen in terror. Her hands clenched. Her body twisted in a position no corpse should ever take. There was no doubt anymore. Octavia Hatcher had been buried alive. The town was stunned into silence. No one knew what to say. What could they say? That a young woman had died not once, but twice. That her final moments were spent trapped, screaming in a wooden box, beneath 6 feet of dirt. James was never the same again. He commissioned a life-sized monument of Octavia, sculpted in her likeness. It still stands today in Pikeville Cemetery, holding a parasol and wearing Victorian mourning clothes. But most curious of all, James had the statue face away from the town. Some say it was out of guilt. Others believe it was because her spirit couldn't bear to look at those who left her there. And then, the sightings began. Visitors to the cemetery reported strange things. A woman in black, walking between the gravestones. The sound of fingernails scratching wood. One couple even claimed they saw the statue turn during a storm, slowly, as if it wanted to face Pikeville after all. Locals began whispering that Octavia's spirit never left. Some believe she still walks the graveyard on restless nights, her soul bound by the panic of her final moments. Others say she watches over the town, warning those who dare to bury their dead too quickly. Even now, over 130 years later, her grave draws curious visitors, ghost hunters, and believers in the paranormal. But one thing remains certain: she was buried too soon, and she wasn't the only one. In the 19th century, premature burial was more common than we'd like to admit. Before modern medicine, coma-like states, epilepsy, and sleeping sickness were often mistaken for death. Some families installed bells inside coffins with strings tied to the dead's fingers, just in case. Octavia's story is far from unique, but hers is one of the most chilling, because we have proof. We have the coffin, we have the statue, we have the marks left behind by a woman who woke up inside her own grave, and we have the legend, the warning, that still haunts the Appalachian Mountains to this day. So the next time you walk through a quiet cemetery and feel a chill brush the back of your neck, ask yourself, are the dead really resting, or are they waiting for someone to hear them knock? If you felt a chill during this story, you're not alone. Subscribe to La Sombra Files for more tales pulled from the cracks between truth and nightmare, because some legends aren't legends at all. We will see you in the dark.